Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today I want to talk about some of the forgotten features of Battlefield. Now, Battlefield as a franchise has had many games over the years, is innovated in many ways and changed quite a bit along the way, but we've also lost a lot of features that existed in past Battlefield games, and it's not always clear as to why, but it does make sense to sort of revisit these features and try and remind ourselves or even dice about some of these cool features that were actually really nice, really appreciated within the franchise. Maybe we could see them in a future title. And what's really interesting to me is that some of these features we haven't even seen since Battlefield 2. One of the better features, I think, from the Battlefield 2 franchise was a scoreboard that separated out your objective score from the other ways that you earned points in the game, like getting kills. This allowed you to look at a scoreboard and quickly see if somebody was towards the top of the scoreboard, how they were getting there specifically. Were they capping a lot of flags, distributing a lot of ammo, reviving lots of teammates, or getting a lot of kills? At a glance, you could tell what kind of player they were, whether they were supporting the team more, playing objectives more, or just killing tons and tons of enemies. Battlefield 2 was also one of the last Battlefield games that I remember awarding kills to players who were the last ones to damage their enemies before they died. This was a really important feature, and I'm kind of confused as to why it's never made it back into more modern Battlefield games, but it was very important for pilots especially, where if you shot up an enemy aircraft to the point where it couldn't fly well anymore and then it would crash, you would get the kill from that player when it crashed. In modern Battlefield games, this is not the case, where if you shoot up an enemy aircraft and they crash and explode, you often don't get the kills. If an enemy pilot flies out of bounds to get away from you or even bails out of the aircraft and dies, again, you don't get the kill. If you're on the ground and you damage an enemy aircraft flying overhead and it crashes, you will not get the kill for it. If you're playing Firestorm and you shoot at an enemy as they run off into the fire and then they die to fire damage, you don't get the kill for it. If you shoot at an enemy and they jump off of a tall structure to try and get away from you, you don't get the kill when they hit the ground. It counts as a suicide. Calling this a forgotten feature almost seems weird, as it just seems like it should be the way that the game is designed, but for whatever reason, we've lost this element of Battlefield long ago. Another feature that seems to be innovated out of Battlefield, probably by accident, is fixed vehicle spawns. Now, a lot of maps in Battlefield had a certain number of battle tanks, a certain number of APCs, a certain number of fighters and or bombers. There was basically a good mixture of vehicles on lots of previous Battlefield games. Now the current vehicle spawn system allows you to pick your favorite vehicle whenever you want, and it's basically upset the overall vehicle balance on many maps. Battlefield 1 implemented some restrictions on this in some of the later maps, forcing you to spawn in with land ships on certain maps instead of just whatever your favorite tank was, but Battlefield 5 has not put any restrictions on this system yet. Bringing back vehicle spawn restrictions would probably force more variety in the gameplay and also better map balance. Battlefield Hardline's vehicle spawn system was probably the best the franchise has ever had, where it had a set amount of vehicles per side, a set amount of types for vehicles per side, and then it also had spawn timers, so you knew how long you had to wait for each type of vehicle before it spawned in. This was a great system. They improved upon every element of vehicle spawning, and then we've literally never seen it again. Standard grenade timers. These used to be basic features in Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, but for whatever reason, Battlefield 1 and continued in Battlefield 5 has changed the grenade timer system to some weird smart grenade that, instead of recognizing the moment the grenade leaves your hand as the time that the grenade timer should start, it now tracks when the grenade has come to a resting position on the ground, and then the grenade timer begins. A set grenade timer allows a little bit more skilled gameplay, where if you throw the grenade at a certain arc, you can actually time when it goes off to try and be slightly more effective with it. The new smart grenades not only reduce the skill curve, but they make grenades feel very unrealistic in how they behave, which feels very out of place, especially in historical shooters. Now, something that's existed within limited capacity in previous Battlefield games is a good team balancer. This has been one of the most heavily requested features for Battlefield 5 so far, something that mixes up teams in between rounds, something that looks at a good time mid-round to balance teams that are just way out of whack and unfun. The main reason I leave any server is because one team is dominating another. It doesn't matter if I'm on the winning team or the losing team, it's equally unfun in both scenarios to play in those games. Having a decent team balancer, mixing and matching the teams a bit, keeping friends together, but trying to get the skill levels balanced on each team could go a long way. The fact that we used to have better team balancer tools in previous Battlefield games and now we basically have nothing in Battlefield 5 is very perplexing. Battlefield 4's practice range. For whatever reason, Battlefield 4 has been one of the only Battlefield games that's ever had any sort of decent practice range to test out weapons and vehicles. It was simple, straightforward, fast to load into, gave you all the targets you could need, gave you all the vehicles you could need, allowed you to customize your weapon on the fly and test out everything. It basically only lacked the ability to play against friends and test out tank strategies, airplane strategies, or weapon strategies against each other. And sadly, Battlefield 5's practice range doesn't even come close to delivering the same sort of functionality, but instead seems like it was designed as some sort of tutorial hybrid system for novice players, but probably not a great one in the first place. Multiple types of high-powered optics. Even Battlefield 1 had 8 times optics, but for whatever reason, Battlefield 5, which takes place in World War II, has a 6 times optic magnification is the highest powered magnification available. Now, sure enough, most of the optics in World War II were not extremely high powered for the most part, but they did have high powered optics for sniper rifles. For whatever reason, we can't use any of those right now. And this kind of sucks because a lot of people really prefer specific zoom optics or magnification levels for their sniping, and it does limit the amount of extreme long range precision sniping that can be done. Now, when it comes to the progression system, DICE clearly has tried to innovate the progression system for Battlefield 5 in many ways, but in doing so, we've also lost a lot of things that many players miss from previous Battlefield games. Weapon stars tracking indefinitely, giving you an extra weapon star for every 100 kills you get with a gun. These would also be displayed on the kill card, letting players know just how proficient you were with that gun or how much you used it. It was a nice feature, for whatever reason, not present in Battlefield 5. Battlefield 1 showed us weapon skins on kill cards, which was kind of cool. I mean, not the coolest feature in the world, but it was an upgrade to the standard kill card. Sadly, this feature is no longer present in Battlefield 5, and considering how much of an emphasis is put on cosmetics, both weapon and soldiers in this game, not having more ways to show them off in round is really disappointing. Class recognition. For the most part, all previous Battlefield games, maybe aside from like Battlefield Heroes or some oddball like that, had the ability to quickly differentiate classes from one another. They visually look different, they carry different weapon types and whatnot, they'd have different silhouettes. At a glance, a trained player could figure out who they were fighting. In Battlefield 5, for whatever reason, they've mixed and matched all cosmetic items, so you can do weird things like put a medic helmet on a sniper class. So you might be thinking you're sniping at a medic from a distance and all of a sudden they just turn and hit you with a headshot. So not having that class recognition in the game anymore feels like we're missing an old feature. Now, a massive feature that we've lost in the Battlefield franchise is Battle Log. This was a website interface that allowed you to join servers, to track stats, to set up platoons, manage platoons, create emblems, do all these things. It wasn't the best UI or interface ever, and it got a bit of flack. DICE decided to integrate it to their in-game user interface, but in doing so, they basically deleted the vast majority of the features that it provided. So although players supported the idea of shifting this to an in-game UI for the most part, when they ended up getting the final product, it was very, very feature reduced. In fact, basically not even close to what the previous battle log was. Some of the very basic features that we lost with it are the ability to see the round progression of a server. So say in Battlefield 5 you want to join a Mercury map on Conquest. You see a server playing Mercury, you join up, oh, there's only 10 tickets left. The round ends as soon as you join and now you're playing a different map. In the previous battle log you could see round progression and not join into a game that was almost over. So there's just so many little tools and other things that came with Battlelog that we have since lost. When it comes to the end of round score screen, Battlefield 1 introduced a new system that really awarded and highlighted players that got the most heals, the most revives, the most ammo distribution, the most tanks killed, other things like that. Battlefield 5 does a pretty poor job of highlighting players that are not within the top squad. Now, there's plenty of other things that I could add to this list. Obviously, rental server programs, private servers are one of the more requested features that have been available in previous Battlefield games, but DICE has said that this is coming to Battlefield 5 in the near future. Some of the other things that people often talk about are more debatable, more design choices that I wouldn't necessarily call forgotten features necessarily. I mostly want to focus on things that are, for the most part, construed as just straight up downgrades to the overall franchise, things that we've lost along the way, as opposed to, okay, 3D spotting. Some people like it, some people don't like it. 4-man squads versus 5-man squads. Some people like it, some people don't like it. So you can certainly debate about some of the other features. I wanted to talk about the things that are, without question, losses to the franchise, downgrades by not having these features. And it would be nice if DICE could really start putting together a more core feature list of what players expect or what players want from a modern Battlefield title. Why should we get used to a really cool new feature that is without question an upgrade to the franchise, only to see it deleted from the next title in the series? It seems very weird to me, and DICE has had a particularly bad track record of carrying over some of their better features in between games. So it would be awesome to see DICE do a better job of this and reintegrating some of the past features that were, without question, better things for the game. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about my forgotten features list. Are there any features that you really missed from previous Battlefield games? And remember to consider about what is a feature. You know, obviously having a lot more maps isn't necessarily a feature. That's just a production quota, not hitting the current goals or benchmarks or whatever. So think of it as more of a functionality, a feature that was integrated to the core experience that we no longer have. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.